There comes a moment in every life when the noise quiets and we are forced to face the truth we spend years avoiding. That our time is finite and meaning is not promised, it is created. Most of us turn away from that truth, but some, in the face of death, reach towards life with even greater clarity. Paul Kalanithi was one of those rare souls, a neurosurgeon who spent years standing beside the dying and then became the one running out of time. His story is not just about illness, it's about purpose, love, and what it means to live fully, even as the end draws near. This is Paul's journey, and this is the legacy he left the world. Paul grew up in a desert town where opportunities seemed small, but his mother filled their tiny home with endless books, literature, philosophy, science, poetry. She believed the mind needed nourishment the way the body needs air. He devoured the works of T.S. Eliot, Orwell, Conrad, Emerson. He didn't just read stories, he chased meaning through them. He wanted to understand people, choices, morality, the architecture of the human spirit. He would later say that literature taught him the language of life, and medicine taught him the language of death. At Stanford, Paul studied English and human biology, two worlds most people see as opposite, yet to him, they illuminated each other. He questioned not just how people live, but why. Not just how the brain works, but how meaning is formed through the very act of being alive. But something was missing. Knowing meaning in theory wasn't enough. He wanted to confront it in the real world, up close, raw, unfiltered. That desire led him straight into medicine, and not just any field, but neurosurgery, the crossroads where biology and identity intersect, where a single millimeter can alter a person's memories, personality, or future. Neurosurgery demanded everything: years of training, sleepless nights, hands steadier than belief, and a spirit willing to bear witness to both triumph and tragedy. Paul rose to the top. He became chief resident. He comforted families before and after the unthinkable. He held brains in his hands, knowing each one carried entire lives, histories, futures. He was inches away from becoming a world-renowned surgeon, researcher, leader in his field. But the universe had another story to write. At first, the symptoms were quiet, a subtle pain, a persistent fatigue, the kind of things a tired doctor brushes off. But Paul knew bodies. He knew when something didn't make sense, and when the scans came back, showing tumors like constellations across his lungs, the world he built for decades collapsed in seconds. He was 36 years old, a husband, a surgeon, and suddenly a terminal cancer patient. Paul wrote that he had spent years standing at patients' bedsides, talking them through life-changing diagnoses, and now he was leaving one. He wrote, "I had to learn to be a patient, to be vulnerable, to be stripped of the role that had defined me." The future he had sacrificed so much for, academic awards, surgical mastery, medical leadership, evaporated. But in that void, something else surfaced, a deeper question he had asked all his life. What makes a life worth living? That question became the center of everything that followed. Paul didn't write to leave a legacy. He wrote because writing was the only way he knew to make sense of the chaos. He wrote through exhaustion, through chemo sessions, through pain so sharp it blurred his vision. Some days, He could type only a few sentences. Other days, he poured out chapters. His goal wasn't to inspire, it was simply to tell the truth of being alive while dying, the truth of losing the future but still holding on to love. One of the most moving chapters of his life came when he and Lucy chose to bring a child into the world, knowing Paul might never see her grow up. When Katie was born, Paul wrote that he understood something profound, that joy does not depend on certainty, that meaning does not depend on time, that love, even when brief, is immeasurable. He held his laughter not with fear, but with fullness. He said her existence made every remaining moment luminous. As Paul's strength faded, his writing became softer, slower. He tried to finish the book, but his energy was slipping away. The final paragraph ends mid-thought, not because he lacked words, but because life simply ran out. Paul Kalanithi died on March 9, 2015. He was 37. After his death, Lucy finished the book, writing an extraordinary epilogue filled with love, grief, and clarity. When Breath Becomes Air became a global phenomenon, a #1 New York Times bestseller, translated into more than 40 languages, read by millions of people across continents. Doctors read it to remember empathy. Patients read it to feel seen. Readers of all kinds found in Paul's words a compass for their own lives. He became, in the end, a physician in a different form. One who heals through truth, vulnerability, and courage. Paul teaches us that meaning is not something you find at the end of life. It's built in the quiet, ordinary moments we often overlook. You find meaning when you choose integrity over convenience, when you show up for the people you love, when you do your work with care, even when no one is watching. He reminds us that certainty is a luxury, but purpose is a choice. He shows us that the measure of a life is not its length, but its depth. He teaches us that suffering is not the opposite of living, it is part of it. And even in suffering, you can choose to create, to love, to give. He teaches us to live while we are living, to be awake to our days, not sleepwalking through them. And he teaches us that legacy is not built in grand moments, but in the honesty of how you live your truth. If Paul's story touched you, let it move you toward your own life with more courage, more tenderness, and more presence. Thank you for watching, and may we all learn to breathe our moments into meaning while we are still here.